listening to the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brenna Hicks, and this is a special episode of the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast. I was asked to give a talk at Discovery Church in Orlando, Florida last weekend. They were doing a parent huddle, which is where they invite all members of the church to come and participate in a twice annually parent topical event. And this one was on kids and screens. So they asked me to come. Huge special thanks to them, to Shelby and Hilke, for being a part of my invitation. And it was just an amazing time. I was so honored and grateful to be there. Really great response, really great feedback. Obviously, it's a tough topic because it's difficult to process the things that happen when kids are in front of screens too often, but really, really positive outcomes. So I was granted permission to record the talk that I gave, and I wanted to make it available to all of you as part of the podcast family. So I hope that you enjoy this. I think that you'll find it helpful and meaningful as we all continue to fight the digital pacifier battle and we try to keep our kids safe. I don't often mention this, but while we're talking about an event that I was a part of, if you or your organization, an agency, your church, if you know of anyone who would like to have me come speak, please reach out. I am happy to do that, and I would love to be a part of an event if you think I would be a good fit. So my email address is brenna@thekidcounselor.com if you think that you would like to have me speak at an event you are planning or an event that someone else that you know is planning. Again, this is a special episode of the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast where I was asked to give a talk on kids and young screens at Discovery Church in Orlando, Florida. I hope you enjoy. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited. I'm in the Tampa area, so this was about a 2-hour trip for me, but this is so exciting. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm really, really passionate about this, so I'm just very grateful to be here. I'm going to ask for permission, though, because this is something that is going to probably alarm y'all a little bit, concern you a little bit, but it's what you need to know, not what you want to know. So I'm going to ask permission to be honest and be transparent with you. This is really heavy stuff, but it's going to be fun at the end. So, okay, so really, I have a mission that we raise a world full of happy kids that become happy adults. And I think the best way that we do that is we guard against screen time. So I've been given 40-ish minutes, and I could spend 4 hours on this. So bear with me, we're going to go fast, put your seatbelts on, and we're going to go. So that you know a little bit about me, I own a therapy center in the Odessa area, so about 2 hours away, and we see kids and then also families. So we kind of span the whole life spectrum. She's my office manager, so welcome to Maya. But so I'm specifically a play therapist, though, so we specialize in kids 3 to 14, but then we see adults and families and couples and marriage and stuff like that as well. So why am I here? I have my finger on the pulse of what screens do to kids. I'm on the front lines every day. I see the junk that kids bring in because of what they're exposed to. So I'm really excited to talk about that. The ramifications are big. The unintended outcomes are big, and we have to be equipped, we have to be empowered, we have to be educated, and then we can take it from there. So I wrote a book in 2020 in the middle of COVID. That was quite an adventure. It's called Device Detox. I have copies of it here, but it started with my story. And so I want to share a little bit about my personal story with our own son and how that was the impetus for writing this book. So we had never let him on screens. I was very intentional about that. He was only allowed to do educational things. So he had a Montessori app where he learned to count and he learned his letters. But beyond that, we did not allow him on screens. We moved the summer of 2016. So he was 7. And when you move, A 7-year-old cannot help you unpack and do all of that. So we found ourselves going, sure, like play your educational game on the iPad. Sure, you can have the phone, do this. And after a month or so, we started seeing really important behavioral changes. I would say, okay, buddy, time to turn it off. And he would fight and he would yell and he would say no. And Kane, she can attest to this. My son is super laid back, super calm. And it was like, who is this kid, like out of the blue, acting this way? And he would hit the couch if he got mad at something. And I was just like, whoa, the only thing that's changed is the move, which moves are hard for kids. So part of me was like, maybe it's just adjustment, change, whatever. But I started going, no, I feel like it's screens. So that launched me. I'm a research person, like data, I want all the analysis, I want everything. So I'm like, let me just start searching, like kids, screens, behavior. Oh my gosh, it was like Pandora's box opened. And I'm like, how do I not know this as a therapist? How do I not know this as a mom? Like, I'm horrified right now. And that was the reason why Device Detox came to be, because I thought, no one is talking about this. The research community is. There are journal articles everywhere talking about this, but parents are not aware. And so this was my attempt to make parents more aware. So I was really shocked and concerned and worried, and I thought, if I'm feeling this way, I know other parents are too. So interestingly, we still face struggles. He just turned 13, so fast forward to last month, he turned 13. We still struggle with this because every once in a while he's exposed to a new game at a friend's house, or every once in a while a friend starts talking about this new thing online, and we still have to be aware of it, monitor it, control it. And so this isn't like a once you sort it out once, it fixes itself. It is an ongoing battle, ongoing fight, because technology continues to evolve. And I'm going to get into the data in a moment. You'll see how this all ties together. So here is what I perceive to be the main 4 issues that are contributing to where we are. So I think number 1 is ignorance, and not in an offensive way, in a we just don't know. So we're not choosing to be ignorant of it, but we're just not aware. So when we don't know the damage, when we don't know the ramifications, when we don't know what's happening in kids' brains, when we don't know what researchers are discovering, we are not able to address it. So we will talk through that in pretty good depth in just a moment. Laziness, I don't mean to be offensive, let me explain that. It's really easy to let kids be on screens. It's so easy. Here, stop fighting, stop arguing, watch a movie. Here, we're at a restaurant and you're freaking out, let me just give you something to play with. So it has become the digital pacifier. And so laziness is like, it's just easy. And I feel that God has called us to be good stewards. And I feel like we have to be invested and involved and committed and bought in so that we can stop, because the easy thing is not the best thing. The relationship. When kids are on devices with any device, doesn't matter, it prevents relationship. It prevents connection. I don't have my phone, but when you're staring at a screen, you're not engaging, you're not interacting, you're not communicating, you're not forging any kind of bond. So it's preventing relationship, which is huge. And then the brain damage that's caused, which we're going to get to in just a moment. So these are the 4 main issues as I see them, and we'll kind of pick them apart. So one of my favorite books on this topic is Glow Kids, Dr. Nicholas Kardaras. Why I love this, he is an addiction expert. So he comes at this from a totally different perspective because he is in the world of addiction. So he's looking at what the devices are doing to our children's brains and mapping that out with what's happening in addiction in the brain. So obviously it's a long book. I'll hit highlights for you. Basically, the main points of what he has discovered is that adrenaline surges when kids are playing games. Dopamine, which is your pleasure center, also surges. So you combine pleasure center with adrenaline, it's the perfect combination for addiction, because you want to keep feeling good, you want to keep feeling those surges, you want to keep feeling all of these bonuses that are coming to you. So they're actually very, very closely connected. Cortisol is the stress hormone. So it lives in this tiny little almond-shaped thing in the back of our brain. So cortisol is the stress hormone. It is also triggered in addiction and in video game play and in screen use. So you have adrenaline, dopamine, and cortisol all working together, and these are hormones. So this is neurobiological changes that are taking place. And what's happening is that it is actually creating changes to the brain. So I'll come back to that slide, but I want to show you this while we're talking about it. I know it's blurry. This is just parts of the brain. This says corpus callosum. None of that's really relevant. I want you to look at, here, I'm going to switch spots. I want you to look at the mirror image of the pieces of the brain. This is opiate addict, and this is internet addiction. And obviously kids are not necessarily addicted to the internet, but they can be addicted to video games, social media, phone use, doesn't matter. And so the mirrors of this, it's scary. I mean, all of these blue spots, all of the gray and white matter, we're going to talk about that. But you have these very clear indications that what's happening in the brain is exactly the same. So the frontal cortex, again, this is a lot of neurochemistry, and I'm sorry, but it's really important for you to understand. The frontal cortex is responsible for really important things. It's your sympathy center, it's your empathy center, it's your emotional control center. So when kids get to this state, because they're on games all the time and they're on screens all the time, their frontal cortex is affected, and how do we expect kids to control themselves, behave appropriately, have empathy, have sympathy, have other orientation when you have all this stuff going on in their brain preventing it? So it's important for us to be aware of this. I hate watching them. It actually makes me nauseous. But have you all seen the videos where parents go, give me the iPad, and the kid launches into like a meltdown screaming fit, and then they go, okay, you can have it back, and they go, ah! And it's like they go from like lunatic tantrum to like, oh, okay, it's a fix. It's like the guy jonesing for drugs, and it's like, oh, okay, everything's better now. Like, you can see it, the videos. And then there's one where the little kid, the mom walks in the door, and he goes, iPad, iPad, iPad. And she goes, how about, hi, Mom, how are you? iPad, iPad. He's like 3. And like, it makes me physically ill. I'm like, I don't understand how we're missing this. So we have to be super aware of what's going on there. Let me go, oh, wrong one. So this book, the only other thing that I think is really helpful, what we need to know about the addiction piece of this. Neuropsychologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, people in the cognitive emotional space are being hired by gaming companies, being hired by social media platforms to purposefully make stuff addictive. This isn't an accident, this isn't coincidence, it is intentional. We have people that understand psychology, understand the brain, understand the neuroreceptors and dopamine. They are creating addiction. It is not accidental at all. So unfortunately, our kids are the victims. And that's why I think this is something we have to be aware of. So thoughts or questions on the addiction piece before I move on? Okay. So I'm going to move into, yes?
What is a healthy amount of time then?
I promise I'm getting there. hold that thought.
And what's the solution? Like, so a drug addict would go away to rehab for 30 days. Like, is that what a kid's going to need to detox?
So I'm not talking about this and this for time constraints. In my longer, in-depth presentation on this, there are treatment facilities popping up all over this country where kids are going for 30 days for an absolute detox. It is all over the place, and no one's talking about it, y'all. Like, we should be outraged. We should be so angry and protective, and like, this is crazy. So yes, they do have to go away for 30-day detoxes. How sad, right? Like, so we're on the front lines, we've got to do it. No one else is going to do it. So I told you put on your seatbelts. Come on. Okay. So, I promise it'll get better. I promise. So the end is the solution. This is the junk we have to get through first. So this is another study, and I could give you hundreds, honestly, hundreds. But these are the two that I feel like give you the biggest encapsulation of all the research in total. So this is a Chinese study, Zhao Lin and a whole bunch of other names that I have a hard time pronouncing. And it's a really long, complicated title. But what I want you to understand, they are doing brain imaging of kids in control groups. For data people, that's like they're not on screens. And then they're doing brain scans of kids that are on screens all the time. So I'm going to switch again. I'd like you to see, this is no screens. See how there's no red? And with increase in screen time, do you see how this red gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? And then when they start reducing screen time again, it repairs itself. And we go back to no red. So it is fixable. Don't be scared, okay? So the great thing about the way God created us and the way that he makes our bodies and brains is that they repair themselves. But it has to be in an environment where they can heal. And repeated screen use is not going to help. So that's why my book is Detox. Sometimes we have to just cut it off and let our kids reset and rewire, and their neurons can heal and all that. So this is amazing. I mean, this is at like the height of the red, which is damage. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, it goes away again. So this is what we're finding research-wise, but it's stuck in neurobiological journals instead of in the hands of teachers and parents and families and all that. So incredible study. I will hit some highlights of this one for you. The red here is brain matter atrophy. Fancy word for it's shrinking, going away. Okay? So the brain is composed of, yeah, okay, good. Here, look at this one. Okay, so you can see, and it's hard because it's white, but GM is gray matter, CSF is cerebral spinal fluid, WM is white matter. So the three main components of the brain are those three things. Look at the changes here. This is control brain, this is too much screen brain. So you have shrinking. Look at the sizes of things. Look at how this was big here, and look how much smaller it is here. The white matter up here, look at how the green has encroached, so all this area is smaller. And this is top-down view. Look at all of the red here. So we're not just talking about behavioral issues, because I'll get there, I promise, because this wreaks havoc on behavior. But we are talking also about structural changes in the brain. So we have functional changes and structural changes. So when you're looking at this, you're going, oh my goodness, look at what's happening in the brain here. But how do we fix that? We get them off of screens. Reduce screen time, make sure that we're monitoring. So,
is that intellect that you're looking at then?
No. So it doesn't impact intellect, it impacts behavior, emotions. I'm gonna go through exactly what happened in just a second. So here's what you need to know structurally. So what we're looking at with the red. You get a reduction of white matter. White matter is your connection between the body and the brain. So it's your nervous system, your whole process of your brain and body fusing and interacting. When you have white matter atrophy, it affects your sensory input, and it affects your emotions. So when we have kids that are tantruming and outbursts and crazy in their behavior, and they have ADHD and they can't focus, and they call me every day. Oh my gosh, this kid. Well, you have now given kids an iPad to do their schoolwork. Like, sorry, you're contributing to the problem here. So we have white matter reduction. We also have gray matter. Gray matter is decision making. It's your awareness of the world. So we're not losing intellect, but we're losing how do we function well as a human? How do we comply? How do we obey? How do we stay in control? How do we stay regulated? We don't when we have gray and white matter atrophy. So what happens, to sum this up in a concise format, when you have white and gray matter that atrophies and shrinks, you get a hyper-aroused nervous system. The lights, the sounds, the dings, the bells, the spins, the gems, the noises, it shocks your body. You live in a constant state of fight or flight. Y'all familiar with fight or flight? Caveman sees a tiger, you run or you fight. Okay, our body is not designed to remain. That is a instantaneous moment, fight or flight, and then danger goes away, your nervous system resets. And there's way more. There's parasympathetic and sympathetic, and I don't have time to get into it, but they all serve different roles. We can't live, we're not designed to live in a constant state of fight or flight. It is so taxing on our body. Our nervous system gets fried. So what happens? Kids start to not be able to sleep. They can't fall asleep, they can't stay asleep, they're not getting restorative sleep. Why? Because their brain is attuned to every noise, every change, everything, and they live like this all the time. Sit in your chair and do your work at school. Are we kidding? Like, we've put them in this constant state of stimulation. They can't sit and be calm. They can't do what they're asked to do. Their brain is over-firing because of this. So this is big, like you can tell, it matters. Like we have to know this, we have to combat it. It's our greatest challenge as parents right now. I liken this to when cigarettes became the thing, right? Everyone should smoke. The celebrities do it, the athletes do it. It's cool, John Wayne, look at him holding a cigarette, right? It was like everyone should smoke. And tobacco companies were doing what? Hiding the damage that it caused. Guess what? Gaming companies and social media and online companies are hiding the damage that this causes. Here it is. It's here, but we're not aware of it. So our job is to know it and do something about it. So, functional changes. Structural changes in the brain. Functional behavior. You get kids that are extremely impulsive. You get kids that do not think through any action. You get kids that are moody. You get kids that have no attention. They can't focus. They can't stay still. They can't be calm. They're all over the place. Well, you can't make decisions. You can't stay regulated. And your emotions are no longer within your control. I mean, that's what's going on in schools right now. So here's one last thought. Your frontal lobe, well, one last thought about the brain stuff. Your frontal lobe is at the forefront of a lot. And it continues in development and growth. I'm not even going to give it to you. How long do you think the frontal lobe continues to develop? At what age is the frontal lobe finally done growing and developing? Throw out a number.
27.
25. So I shouldn't say that. So the parents that say, oh, my kid's 16, like I don't need to worry about screen time anymore. I'm sorry, when they're 25, you can say, okay, I'm done, I've done my job, right? At any age, while they're living under your roof, this is all still a factor. Frontal lobe is responsible for overall well-being. We want our kids to be happy, have well-being in their lives, frontal lobe till 25. Academic success, largely determined by the frontal lobe. Are we having difficulty in school? Frontal lobe is a part of that. We can't let screens damage it. Career success, long-term projection of how well you're going to do in your career, frontal lobe. And relational skills. You notice how kids don't know how to play, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to interact well anymore? Frontal lobe, relationships, emotions, self-control, decision-making. It's all wrapped up in the frontal lobe, which for a very, very long time continues to develop. So we don't ever get off the hook. When they're 25 and on their own, okay, we get a pass. But until then, it's important. So thoughts or questions on brain-based screen stuff? Yes?
I'm not supposed to be here, but yeah. Okay, you're
talking about the school, like there's a lot of kids that are homeschooled and it's done online.
Perish the thought. I know.
I mean,
I know.
Cornerstone, school right down the road. My best friend's granddaughter spends 5 hours when she gets home.
On the tablet, on the
Every
homework.
day
I know.
doing homework.
I know. Go to school board meetings, put your foot down, say, you give my kid a paper and a pencil to do their work. End of story. That's just all it is. It's about saying, I'm not accepting this anymore. It is a stand, it's a line in the sand, and it's, we're done, it's my kid, I will homeschool and I will not let them on computers, or you will give me paper and pencil for my kid to do math. That's why we switched to homeschooling, because he was at a charter school and he had to do 8 hours of homework on a screen. And I said, can you please give me an alternative? No, I'm sorry, that's the way that we're doing metrics. We have to assess them on the computer. Have him take a test with a pencil, like you can assess him. No, I'm sorry. We said, okay, we're done, homeschool. And it's a rough decision and a rough place to be, but that's the way that it is. Yes?
Is there like academic papers on the differentiation between screen that does give those brain simulations versus just an activity that maybe is boring for them but it's still on screen?
I'll get there as well. It's a future slide. There's a hierarchy, and I'm going to discuss that. So yes, hold that thought too, both of you. Thanks. Was there someone else that had a question in the back?
Your definition of screen, what exactly is a screen?
Okay, that's a helpful question. So our son was little, and we kept saying, no iPad, no phone, no computer. And I finally said, the only way I can help him understand as a child, if it has a screen, you can't be on it. TV included. I will give you the recommended hours per age group at the end, but it includes anything with a screen. There is a hierarchy. TV is less damaging than a phone. So I'll help. Okay, so, well, our day Saturday morning cartoons are different than present day Saturday morning cartoons. Related aside, bonus freebie, not part of curriculum. As a therapist, my kids tell me what they're into, right? She-Ra, like our day She-Ra, they've revamped She-Ra, and it's all gender, there's homosexuality, gender confusion, pans. I'm like, they ruined She-Ra. So Saturday morning cartoons are iffy for me, but TV is different. TV is different than a tablet, for example. So I'll get there, I promise. Okay. All right, good. So here's your hierarchy. So thank you for the segue. That was very helpful. All right. We need to be aware. Oh, you know what? There's one last moment. So they just recently put out a study. They asked kids 8 to 18 to self-report how often they're on screens daily. So you give me your total of number of hours that you are on a screen of any kind, 8 years old to 18-year-olds, self-report 7 hours. If you consider that a child should be sleeping for 10 to 12 hours a day, and they have school, and they have eating, and they have life, every other waking moment, they are on screens. So I just want y'all to know, that's not parents reporting, that's children saying, this is how much time I'm on a screen every day, 7 hours a day. It's horrifying. Okay, so the hierarchy of devices. TV is the only screen that does not have blue light. So TV is the least damaging, the least likely to cause problems. Now, what they watch is a whole other discussion, not for today. But TV itself, screen time, is the least troublesome and worrisome. When you are on a computer, laptop, or desktop, if you are not touching things, that is the next level. So it's blue light, it's more damaging, there's gaming on it, but if you are looking at a screen and not engaging with a screen, that is your next level. And then anything you're holding in your hand is the worst. So iPads, tablets, phones, anything you are holding and manipulating is the most stimulating, the most overtaxing, the most engaged with the brain. Okay, now here's an addendum and an addition. Not all games are created equal either. So I'm going to spend a moment just for a sec on video games themselves. So not all games are created equal. Solitaire on your phone, for example, is not the same thing as Call of Duty warfare, okay? So we have to also be aware of the game itself, because we can say, you know what, I'm only letting you have an hour today. That's what's safe for you, that's what's healthy for you, you get an hour. And they play an hour of Call of Duty, it's a totally different hour than Solitaire or Montessori app or whatever else it may be, right? So we have this sense of how deeply immersive is the game. That's a big piece of it, because when you are first-person shooting, running around, Fortnite, whatever, that's really, really stimulating, versus our day Super Mario that like runs across and jumps over pipes, right? I mean, we're not talking about an apples to apples anymore. Our day video games, Tetris, Mario, Duck Hunt, it's not the same thing. And why? Because they're hiring people to make them addictive and stimulating. And they're doing it. I mean, shame on them, but they're really good at their jobs, right? Come back for a daily spin. If you check in every hour, you get coins. You get a new skin for this. New season starts now. Like, I gotta log on. I gotta check. I gotta get a spin. No, Mom, oh my gosh. Why? Because they're addictive. And our kids are wired now for the dopamine, for the adrenaline, for everything. So we have to say, okay, we're going to rethink all of it, right? So let me see what else. Oh, okay, here is your clue. How are the games monetizing what they put out into the world? In other words, you buy an Xbox game, it's $70, but they make their money up front. There's no incentive to keep them buying, spending, coming back. The game is the game is the game. You buy it, you play it. Please stick with those. Buy a game. I mean, please don't let your kids play video games. But if they're going to play video games, please get a game that you pay for up front and you're done. Freemium games, how do they make money? Ads. Every time your kid has to watch a video to get to do the next thing, you're overwhelming their system. Who knows what the ad is for? And you're giving them money every single time the video plays. Money, 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 money to gaming companies. It's awful. And it's in-game purchases. You have to get the spin, you have to do this. So they keep you coming back. That is the most addictive game, because kids are like, wait, has it been 24 hours? Oh, I can go check in and da-da-da. Like, it's all consuming and overwhelming for their brains. So just be aware. That's a freebie too. Okay, so this started, just for your reference, this started with Mafia Wars. Mafia Wars was the first game to introduce this kind of gameplay. Then came Clash of Clans, and out of those, we are where we are now. So Stumble Guys, Fortnite, Candy Crush, Wordscapes, think about all of them. Oh, you can't play anymore for 6 more hours, but if you come back, you can try again. It has transformed the gaming industry. I just read $37 billion. That's the gaming industry right now. $37 billion. And who are they preying on, and who are the victims? Our kids. Now, there are plenty of adults addicted. They're doing detox facilities for adults too. This isn't just for kids. But our kids are the ones that don't have cognitive abilities to reason through this. So it makes it harder for them. Okay, one final video game thought. Please, please, for me, for your kids, for everything, do not let your kids play Roblox. If your kids play Roblox, delete it, cancel it, forget about it, act as if it's never been around in the whole world. Please. Roblox. It's all kinds of games in one portal. And, okay, I'll give you the dangers and then y'all can go from there. Roblox has user-generated games. So they can put adult content in them, they can put simulated sex acts in them, they can put graphic images in them, they can put cuss words in them, they can put anything they want in them.
How do you spell this game?
ROBLOX. It is a hub of like thousands of games, and you have absolutely no idea what your kid can click on and end up in. And it's internet, so they're playing with other people, so you end up talking to strangers,
Is this an app or a browser?
all of it, all of it.
And they say it's safe because they add only friends. So I have family that are like, oh, my kids are playing, and we're like, don't do that because we understand technology. But they just play with friends in a safe room. And my husband, he's an IT guy, is like, it's not safe.
It's not safe at all. And they claim they have put child-safe mechanisms in to keep kids safe, and it's baloney. So love your kids and tell them no. That's just the moral of the story. Our son, since 2016, I have said, buddy, I trust you, but it is my job to keep you safe. And it is not safe for you to play that game. It is not safe for you to be on the computer. It is not safe for you to have social media. It is not safe for everything under the sun that kids want and that everyone thinks is normal for them to have. I did not have a cell phone till I was 18 years old. I had a beeper at 16, and then I had a cell phone at 18. Kids can survive without digital pacifiers. Like, just get rid of it out of your entire framework of what kids need and should have. It's not necessary. Okay, so here to circle back to your question, I went through the hierarchy of games. Okay, I forgot I had a quote. A psychologist, Jordan Foster, she's very well versed in kids and gaming and internet exposure and blah, blah, blah. Her quote is, meaning allowing them to play games that are the kind of games we just talked about. Consider it similar to sending a young child out into a vast, unfamiliar environment in the real world without providing them any tips, tools, or supervision to ensure their safety and increase their resourcefulness. So you give the kid a phone and you say, sure, play a game on Roblox. They're walking into an unfamiliar environment without anything they need to handle it. They can't be resourceful. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And that's what the psychologists are saying, the ones that aren't working for the gaming companies. Let me throw that out. So we have to stop. All right, here's your answer. So the American Academy of Pediatrics does actually have recommendations for healthy screen time. I would argue it should be a smidge less than this, but this is the Pediatric Academy's recommendations. Under 2 should have nothing. All the babies being pushed around in strollers holding a phone, it horrifies me. 2 to 5, less than an hour a day. And 5 to 17, notice that range. We're not saying 5 to 8, 5 to 9. 5 till graduation should have less than 2 hours a day. Now, and then there's another recommendation list that says under 10 should have less than an hour a day. So one says 2 to 5, and then 5 to 17, and then one says 10 and under is less than an hour, and then 11 to 17 is less than 2 hours. So basically 1 to 2 hours a day, no matter how old your child is over the age of 2. Now, here's what's important to note. This is all screens. So when your kid has to do homework on their iPad for an hour, this sucks, buddy. I'm sorry, but you've had your hour of screens today. But that's not fair. I want to play with my friends, blah, blah, blah. I know, but it's not safe for your brain. I watched TV this morning. What do you mean I can't play video games? You already had your hour, buddy. Tomorrow you can choose to play video games instead of watch TV. So This is way less than we think. And here's what's fascinating. Holy moly. Okay, here's what's fascinating. We have had parents report how often their kids are on screens. And parents are notorious for under-reporting. So the researchers even say, this is not accurate because they think it's way less than it actually is. So parents are reporting their kids are on screens 5 hours a day. And the researchers even know that's baloney. They're like, yeah, it's probably more like 8 because they don't even realize how often their kids are on screens. So when they're doing schoolwork and homework and they're at school in front of a computer and they're checking something on a phone and then they're watching a video on YouTube and then you add it all up, less than an hour or 2 hours a day. And they're being exposed to 10 times that sometimes. So this is the reality of what the Pediatric Academy is saying. I don't even agree with this. I think it should be less. But the pediatricians of the world are saying this. So it's a big deal. All right.
What are the recommendations for adults?
Self-control and appropriate modeling. I honestly, I've had so many parents that have bought my book and gone through the system in it, and they, as an entire family, detoxed. They all stopped their screen time because they were like, look, we're a problem too. We know that we contribute to this. We check our text at dinner. We're looking up something. And they're like, we all had to get off of it for a while and reset. So.
But what do you say about people who disable the blue light from their equipment? Like, how would that?
So the blue light really is the most damaging for sleep. That's the most effect that it has is the sleep cycle. So it would probably help with the sleep, but everything else would be the same.
I would say most of the adults that I know work in front of a computer all day. So it's like saying that you cannot have this profession for the rest of your life.
Well, okay, so let me clarify. Your adult brain is fully developed. So the dangers are less for adults because their brain isn't actively growing and developing. I mean, it's not great for you, but it's not causing the damage that it is in children.
So you're saying for the adults, the brain doesn't atrophy anymore?
It does, but not to the same degree. And it's the stimulation more than it is the looking at a screen. I mean, my husband's a programmer. Like, he's in front of a computer all day. So the act of looking at a screen is not as overwhelming as all the stimulation that they're getting when they're in front of a screen.
There is a differentiation between the activity.
Yes, yes. And that's what I meant by the hierarchy. Like, you know, working on a screen is different.
My only argument that I was have is that I always thought that having more stimulation while doing an activity was better for you in terms of just growing your brain, right? Like, I always thought that TV was just like a brainless activity or just stare at it at some moment you just don't think about it anymore. And like compared to reading a book where you're actually imagining those scenarios, right? Can you say the same thing about activities that you do on your iPad where you're like doing something, a puzzle or like solving something or learning something for school? Wouldn't that be better than TV? Like,
Better is relative. So is it better for the damage that it's causing to a child's brain? No. Is it better intellectually? Yes. So you have to balance the cost benefit. So like, because everyone now says, oh, my toddler should have an educational app. No, they shouldn't. Sit down with a book and have them trace letters in a book. You do not need an app to teach your child letters, but it's educational content, right? And that is how they looped us in. Again, longer presentation when I do my 5-hour one, you get this. But you have to keep in mind that's how they looped us into this. Oh, it's an educational app. It'll help them learn. ABC Mouse. It's amazing. No, it's not. Turn it off. Don't let your kids on it. Like, so it's about what the goal is. Because yes, it's a mindless activity to watch TV, and it's, you know, stimulating in an academic, intellectual way, but the damage is still the same. So it's just it's a balance.
because of like the high you get from doing something.
Right. The stimulation, the fight or flight, all of that.
I see. But wouldn't you say that happens as well whenever you're doing something that feels good for you, like when you're eating or when you're like doing a thyroid
Yeah, the
disease.
hormone shifts, yes, the hormone shifts take place all the time. Like runner's high, right? You go run and you feel better. You exercise, you feel better. You eat and you get pleasure center release. But that is stuff that a child's brain can handle. A child's brain cannot handle the devices and the video games.
Yeah, I would say just the volume of it.
Yes,
It's like
yeah.
constantly.
Right. Okay, so, okay, so social media, I'm gonna really quickly cover this. I'll have to condense, but how many of you all have children with cell phones? Oh, about half. Okay, so social media is the bane of my existence, okay? Facebook takes algorithms and they purposefully send content to people that they didn't want to see. For example, a young girl, teenage girl, looks up healthy recipes. Within a week, it takes healthy recipes to anorexic content. Okay? It's a slippery slope. The algorithm just shoves you to toxic crap. Okay? So please, they are targeting people under 13 as young as 8. There's documentation of this. Facebook is terrible. YouTube, it curates content, so it's like, hey, recommended videos. You have no idea what that is gonna shoot out to your kids. Even if the video they're currently watching is Dude Perfect. The next thing you know, it's something awful that they can click on and watch, okay? TikTok, oh my gosh. So TikTok is owned by the CCP. I'm not gonna get into political stuff. I just want you to know they show very different content to the Chinese youth than they do to our youth. Why? Because it's intentional. And what are they showing us? Gender confusion, gender identity, weakness, homosexuality, you name it, it's junk. So please do not let your kids on social media at all of any kind. To segue, cell phones are the huge cause of that. I have teens in my office, I mean, I have as young as 10, sadly, but I have girls, especially teens in my office every day that are cutting, that are depressed, that are anxious, that are anorexic, that are bulimic, that are threatening suicide. And it all stems from how much time they are on social media, on their phone every day. Here's my antidote for you. I am an affiliate with Gab Wireless. They are an internet-free, safe phone. You take pictures, you listen to music, you text and you call. That's it. There's no apps, there's no social media, there's no internet, there's nothing. It's like old school flip phone, but in a cool way, okay? My son cried when I told him I was gonna get him a flip phone, so I had to find an alternative. So here's the alternative. My son has a Gab Wireless phone, all of his friends have Gab Wireless phones. I'm an affiliate right now, Black Friday deal. They're letting you get the phone or the watch for free if you sign up for 2 years. It is a safe, I have peace of mind. I never go, what are you looking at? What video are you watching? What are you looking, like if he's on his phone, he's either calling or texting someone. I never am worried about what's going on. And it is amazing. If you use the promo code PLAY, you can get, it's a $150 phone and you can get it for free. You just have to sign up for 2 years. We love it, it's amazing. Get it for your kids, please.
What about the text messages that randomly come in the spam that comes from all of the targeting baloney that gets to my phone? Would that go into a Gap phone?
No, because it's not internet connected. It is a cellular.
But if it is like a phone number that can get somehow scraped or belong to someone in the past, then they will still get targeted by just like random.
It could be, but because this is its own, this is a company out of Utah. They're a Christian company. They're amazing. I love them, and they have a really cool thing. So again, your children do not need phones, okay? They don't. But if you, at least until middle school, I mean, probably later, but your elementary school kids do not need phones. When they need a phone, get them a safe phone. Please do not think that you can put enough safeguards on there to keep them safe. You can't. They're gonna have social media and they're gonna get junk. This, you never ever have to worry about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and also like avoid signing them up online and using that phone for other services, because then sometimes the companies will aware with advertisers and that kind of stuff, and then he gets out of hand.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Does texting, not just random friends that we don't know their backgrounds or who they're with, not present the same dangers as them playing games and all that kind of stuff?
It's not the same dangers, but it's a whole other set of very real dangers. I check my son's text every night. He hands me the phone, I pull up his text, I read every single one, and then I go, okay, go charge it, please. It's monitoring, it's awareness, he cannot delete them. Gab phone. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, really quickly, you guys were supposed to be out of here 5 minutes ago. Okay, so what do you do now? With knowledge comes responsibility, right? So you all now have this knowledge, and you now are tasked with what are you going to do about it? So here's the good stuff. Decide a family plan. I'm not telling you to buy the book. You can do it on your own. I don't care. But the book is designed to give your family a system to use so that you can all get to a healthy amount of screens. So you have to have a plan, though. Without a plan, you will fail. So it can't be willy-nilly. Sure, you can have screens right now. No, you can't have them later. You're allowed to have an hour a day. It has to be a formulated system in your home that everyone knows. My son does not get screens during the week. So when he comes to me on a Wednesday and goes, Mom, can I watch we love bowling. So he's like, can I watch the PBA tournament? Buddy, what day is it today? Wednesday. Okay, well, you don't have screens today. Well, can you record it for me? Yes. And then he watches it on the weekend, but he earns his time on the weekend. He doesn't just get carte blanche time, he earns it. So you have to have a system and a plan so that you can succeed. And if your kids know the system, they will eventually adopt it. Now, here's the plan. Be prepared for backlash. Be prepared for fights. Be prepared for World War III. Because when you tell your kids you're no longer going to have a phone, you're no longer going to have TikTok, you're no longer going to have social media. Oh my, cry in buckets, right? Okay, here's the end of my life as I know it. And what kids get more than anything else is being kept safe. In our center, at our practice, if a kid is fighting something, we say, you really wish you could do that, but it is my job to keep you safe, and that is not safe. If you just say that on repeat ad nauseum to your kids, they can't argue with it. They will hate it, and they will hate you, and they will think it's the worst thing ever. But eventually they will go, I have to be kept safe. I get it. Right? It is our job to keep them safe, and that is what we need to do. So we use specific examples in our house. They're in the book. It's up to you. Here's what I want you to walk away with. We need a world full of happy kids who become happy adults. And as you've seen in this last 45 minutes, screens are the antidote to happy kids. So we have to be on the defense against it, so that we can ensure that our kids are happy now and they will be happy later. Really quick story. I was going to work with geriatrics, went into grad school, wanted to work with the elderly, and I started substitute teaching, and I saw all these pained, hurting, broken, sad, angry kids. And God was like, paradigm shift. You need to help kids when they're young so you don't have to work with them when they're old. We are going to look back 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, and the world is going to go, what were they doing? What? Why? How? What in the world, right? Because we're just doing what we're doing and we're not thinking objectively and going, this is a terrible idea. So it's on us, for the rest of the world's sake, to take a stand and do what we need to do. So please connect with me. Email me. I post content. I have podcasts. I have articles. I have videos. I have all kinds of stuff. Please contact me. I'd love to hear from you. My email address is there. My podcast is Play Therapy Parenting. So if you search Play Therapy Parenting in whatever podcast app you use, you'll get access to my podcasts. I put stuff out usually once a week, and there's like 100 episodes, and you can just digest as much or as little as you want. But I really deeply care about our kids, and I care about parents having what they need to parent well. So please connect with me. I'd love to hear from y'all. Thank you. I'm sorry I kept you over.
Thank you for listening to the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks. For more episodes and to subscribe to our newsletter, please go to www.playtherapyparenting.com.